I'm the Chief Medical Officer of the Bon Secours Heart and Vascular Institute in Virginia. I found double actually just surfing the web a couple of years ago and thought that it could have some potentially really helpful applications for my practice. I keep it mainly in the cardiac surgery intensive care unit and use it mostly to round when I'm not here. Before double, I would call the ICU in the evenings sometimes, especially if there was a patient that I was concerned about, and it would just be a phone call between the nurse and myself. Since I've gotten double, I have that extra dimension of not just speaking to the nurse, but being able actually to look at the patient, look at the monitor, and just get an intuitive sense of how things are. There's been data that showed that the more the patients are seen, especially in the evenings for the night shifts, that the better long-term outcomes there are. So it's a real enhancement. It's another aid to giving better care. The mobility, I think, is the single best feature, and how really easy it is to drive all around. And I've done that from distances. Been away to a meeting on the West Coast and then been able to check in or go from the intensive care unit to the step-down unit to check in with a family member who I hadn't gotten to speak to, for example. And you do have a real connected conversation, which is different from a phone call. It's definitely a much more personal interaction when you can look eye to eye. It's nice to be able to just do it from any modality. I've done it from an iPad, I've done it from an iPhone. So to be able to just do that from almost anywhere at any time without having to wait to go through the unit secretary and then for her to find the nurse and whatnot, it's great. So I typically arrive at the hospital at 6:30 in the morning, occasionally earlier, and rarely leave before 7 or 8 at night. By knowing that I could check in at 9, 10, 11, 12 o'clock or before I decide it's time to go to sleep, it does give me some peace of mind, allows me sometimes to leave a little earlier than I might have otherwise. It's a great investment, especially when you consider that there are robotic systems used in medicine in the market that cost 10, 20 times more than what this system cost. The return on investment is huge. It didn't take a lot to convince the hospital administration that this was a simple thing to buy and that it had significant patient benefits.
Cognizant DigitalWorks is the business practice within Cognizant that helps our clients undertake digital transformation. In my experience, when people see double, it sort of blows their mind a little bit. Even people who are quite deep into technology, leading edge technology, when they actually experience it, either being present through it or interacting with somebody else who's present with it, it's very exciting. It really sort of changes how people think about things, and it opens up a new window of possibilities of how we interact. The collaboratory is a space that we set up to invite our clients in and to think about the future of their work. You know, where technology is taking them, where their clients are taking them. And so they'll bring a multidisciplinary team of engineers, technologists, business people, commercial people, and they'll come in and work with our multidisciplinary teams. So there's lots of different ways that we work, and typically it's the heats of conversation and battling around ideas and trying to generate new ideas that happens face to face in a room like this. So if one of our engineers or one of our designers or strategists is in San Francisco or in Mumbai or Delhi, they can actually come into a meeting here when we've got our clients in a room like this and actually sort of be physically present in that meeting in a way that just through the addition of the ability to move around gives another layer to that interaction over a static screen on the wall. You can physically go from room to room or from person to person and interact in a way that you can't do through Skype or through a sort of wall-based, screen-based video conference. The collaboratory is full of examples of leading-edge technology, sensors and wearables and VR machines and 3D printing machines. And so Double is another example of what the future is going to bring us increasingly and become more ubiquitous in the way that we work. So having examples and allowing people to use those examples can be very powerful, and it's exciting to see how excited they are when they play with things like this.
As educators, we're always looking for innovative ways to use technology, and I think the use of the robot has certainly met our need.
We have been using the double robots as an educational tool to engage our nursing students with our advanced practice students.
Actually, using the double has been kind of fun. We were looking for a way to incorporate our nurse practitioner students into simulation.
We do a couple different types of simulations. We do some with what we call standardized patients, which are paid live actors that act as patients. And then we also do some with what we call high fidelity simulators. So these are computerized mannequins that they blink, you can get heart sounds, lung sounds. They also hook up to a monitor, so the students get sort of an experience that would be similar to what they would see in a hospital.
In the past, the nurse practitioner students would come and join the pre-licensure students, the ABSNs, in simulation. And the nurse practitioner who would be in the building, maybe in class, would be told to come, and help the students out. When they became distance-based, they were no longer here to do that.
Once the advanced practice program changed to distance-based, we were faced with the challenge of how can we still keep our nurse practitioner students involved in the simulations with our pre-licensure students. So the robot actually became a great way, a great tool, if you will, to have a presence of the nurse practitioners here on campus.
Having a nurse practitioner presence in simulation is just very beneficial for the students. It provides teamwork opportunities, certainly communication opportunities for the students, and it goes both ways. The ABSNs are communicating with the advanced practice nurses, the nurse practitioners, and in return, the nurse practitioner students need to learn how to get the information from the ABSN students.
The telepresence robots allow an end user, such as our students, to have more autonomy over their interaction and engagement in a clinical simulation. By our students having autonomy to actually drive, they feel like they are more part of our community here.
We like the idea that our students are seeing emerging technologies as well, because in healthcare they'll likely see the use of that type of technology, so we're starting that while they're students. They're all 21st century learners, so they love the infusion of innovative technology.
As healthcare evolves to integrate telehealth into standard clinical practice, our educational offerings also have to evolve to meet those needs. So here at the Duke University School of Nursing, we are integrating telehealth technology into our educational offerings so that as our students graduate, they are comfortable using this 21st century technology.
It really does add a presence to the simulation. Even though it is on a stick and an iPad, it actually makes you feel as if that person is present in the room.
What's great about the double is it provides almost a sense of authority, if you will, where you are actively engaged, you are physically there, even though you're thousands of miles away. My name is Jonathan Mercereau, and I am a senior CDN engineer at LinkedIn, and we're at my home office here in Austin, Texas.
The double basically gave me a presence in the office to where my group sat in a small circle, and I was able just to park the robot in the middle of the group area and really start taking a part in conversations that were happening in the office. It allowed me to almost have like a remote desk where people were working on their computer and I was sitting next to them, and I was able just to engage in a lot of the hallway conversations that I wasn't able to before. My name is Mike Sabota. I'm a senior staff engineer with LinkedIn, and I work remotely out of Atlanta.
We're looking at Double as being another tool in our arsenal to keep our employees well connected, no matter what campus or where they might be in the world. My name is Jim Varghese. I run global video conferencing operations and engineering here at LinkedIn. My mission here at LinkedIn is to allow people to collaborate over video without barriers. My ultimate vision is to create a better than being there video experience.
So I've been at LinkedIn for almost 3 years now. I, at about 2 years in, made the decision to move to Austin, Texas, and just trial run a remote employment opportunity. It was very, very difficult at first, and I had no idea how it was going to work. With the double, it seems to be working out really, really well.
There was some pushback on initially getting a robot, and management was like, you could just give us a phone call and talk to us on the phone, or we can set up a video meeting. And the problem with that is that it had to be a scheduled event. What happened when I had the robot was that I could just be there.
It's kind of a great feeling to know that I can roll into a conference room and I can see people's reactions and I can get a read for the feeling in the room. When I start speaking, it's not people talking over me, it's people turning their heads. And it gives you this real sense of presence, this real feeling that you're actually in the room. It's transformational.
The word that every one of the remote employees has used is transformational. And now within IT, we're finding all kinds of use cases out of just the remote worker to utilize this, have some fun, but also remain connected.
I've been with LinkedIn for 5 years now. I was one of the only remote employees starting off. It used to be when I would fly out here every 3 or 4 months. I felt like I missed a lot between visits. It was like I was a new employee every time because the company was changing so fast and I wasn't there to see it. And now, since I have a presence with the robot every day, I'm actually able to kind of keep track with what's going on in the office. And now I'm actually able to interface with people face to face, so to speak, even though we're separated by thousands of miles.
I'd say that a single double probably saves at least 2 business trips a year. Being able to have those interactions with people means that I don't have to fly out there nearly as much.
When I was hired back in May 2010, LinkedIn was around 700 employees. Now we're approaching 7,000, and tools like Double Robotics really helps a globally distributed company continue to communicate to each other effectively, even though we may be in separate offices down the street or across the country.
We look to grow, we look to simplify, and we look to do it every single day. And in the end, we're just trying to make everyone as productive as possible.
Manipov LLC is a mobile device recycling company.
We take our security measures very seriously. We monitor our security systems 24/7. We have active robots that we can log into so that we can make sure that none of this personal data information comes from these phones or these phones aren't taken.
Our main security guy doesn't really leave the front desk while he's watching the cameras, so he'll control one of the doubles and roam around the warehouse.
One of the biggest things is it enables me to be here stationed and monitor other situations on other cameras without having to be out there in that location.
Rather than having a person looking over your shoulder and monitoring what you're doing, the double acts as a stationary object to where you don't realize that you're being monitored. We leave a security screen indicating security for our workers not to be distracted. It camouflages itself with the whole environment.
Before Double, it was a little difficult for our security guard to make rounds. With the doubles, it's made it a little simpler.
The biggest asset of having the doubles is the mobility. I can look into situations which the other cameras cannot do.
We like that the doubles last almost all 8 hours of our workday. Using the doubles are pretty much the closest thing that our security guard has to walking out there and just making a round.
You know, when we talk technology, when we talk education, there's a lot of things that happen that don't kind of give you the return that you expect. You know, you put money out there for technologies and you're hoping to really make a change, and sometimes it does, but often it's an incremental change. And this is one of those technologies that you get huge amounts of bang for your buck. The ability to change a child's life, for them to be able to connect with their own classmates in school is huge.
It was hard at first because I couldn't go to school like physically, and now it's like I can go to school like every day.
Once she got the hang of it, it was like a whole new world for her. Not just academically, but socially.
I signed into the double and I used the keyboard to move the robot around so I can get from class to class.
She was stuck in a room, mostly bedridden, and too feeble to come to school. So we were looking for options to be able to get her into the building and interact with students.
When I was approached about, what possibilities are out there, we looked at a bunch of different solutions, and by far, Double was it.
The Double robot ended up being the most cost-effective and the easiest way for us to get the student up and rolling, so to speak.
The difference with the Double is the mobility, is the fact that she can control it herself. So if she wants to turn around, see what's going on, zoom in on the board, she has autonomy to do that. It's a very different thing for her than having somebody kind of cart her around on a laptop.
It makes me happy because I can socialize with the robot. I can interact with the teachers and the students.
They're just seeing Jasmine, and Jasmine can talk to them like a normal kid.
Before, she was just with an adult and not having those student interactions, which are really part of the education piece. They accept technology as every day, so it didn't take them long at all to get used to a robot rolling down the hallway. It was cool, it was new, and now it's part of what they do.
This sounds hyperbole, but it's changed her life. I mean, she wants to be here. She's excited to be here. She's excited to say hi to the kids in the hallway. Little things that we take for granted because we do it every day, it's huge for her. It's life-changing.
It's enabled our students to get something here from her. You know, anytime you add in diversity in different positions in life, that it helps to increase the knowledge on this end. So it's not just been a benefit to Jasmine, it's been a benefit to our students that are interacting with her.
I see it opening many doors for many kids, because I can imagine Jasmine's not the only homebound student that wants to go to school but can't go.
I'd highly recommend it to other schools because it has opened up a whole new avenue for us to deliver instruction to students who can't, for one reason or another, be here.
I mean, I've always told her, you might have a disability, but that doesn't define who you are as a person. And this is just one other thing that's making her realize that I can do.
I sign into the Double every day. We host something called Double Hours. Colleagues can come in and talk to me, and we can catch up on projects or tasks. There's other times I use it to roam the halls and bump into people or attend meetings.
The Department of Information Technology at the University of West Florida is the central hub for technology at the university.
Justin started here, and we realized pretty quick that he's a top shelf talent. He wanted to get closer to family, so he moved back to Pennsylvania, and Melanie Havert, our CIO, made it possible for him to do that via using the Double. And it would be very hard to replace him in Pensacola, so this has worked out really well.
My supervisors had approached me with the idea of using the Double as a tool for my remote employment, and I've been able to use it since day one. It's made my transition to being a remote employee very seamless.
He used to work next door to me over here, and the Double actually lives in his old room. So every morning I come in and there he is. He's got his face on the iPad screen there, and it's kind of like he hasn't left.
When you have sort of an autonomous person, I mean, it's like a robotic person that rolls in of their own accord, that means that I don't have to change anything about where I am, what I'm doing. I can turn just like I'm turning to you and speak and feel like my message is getting across. I think that that's the true meaning of telepresence. You're really there in an electronic form.
The Double makes it so that we don't have to set up communication. Typically, he just rolls in here and we talk about whatever it is we need to discuss. And if I need to speak to him, I just walk into his office. And that's invaluable for us.
The Double has a lot of features that allow it to do more than just video conference. You know, I could zoom in. I can change the Double's height, so if I'm talking to people standing up, I can see them eye to eye. I can also share my screen, so I can show them something through the Double without using another service.
Going from not thinking it was going to work at all before we even purchased it, to buying our second Double because of the new features of the new one, and because we so like it, it's absolutely a worthwhile thing to do.
The new wide-angle camera allows me to see more of a peripheral vision. I can actually take part in a group conversation and kind of feel like I'm talking to the people around me.
We got wide-angle cameras for both of them. It's crucial, I think. Having that perspective is very, very good. That was something that we couldn't adequately duplicate before, which was walking down a hallway side by side and continuing to converse, and all Justin has to do is hang back just a tiny bit and he gets that big wide angle and he can still talk to us, which is great.
Double has been a very worthwhile investment. Having a talent like Justin Andrews on board wouldn't be possible without it.
Definitely recommend it to other IT shops if they have somebody who's working remotely. It just makes them feel more like he's connected to everyday activities.
I feel really privileged to have the ability to be a remote employee, and I really want to succeed at it. And the Doubles allow me to accomplish that because it's given me the opportunity to do everything I would normally do, and honestly so much more. So I think it's been a very worthwhile investment for University of West Florida.
I think companies are becoming a lot more open to the idea of telecommuting employees, just because the technology is to a point now that it's very effective.
Innovation Space is a digital multimedia and emerging educational technology lab. So James has been the lab operations coordinator for 18 years and has seen it grow from the very beginning to where it is now. And he's currently in California.
So about 6 months ago, my fiance was offered a job here in Los Angeles, California. So I knew we would have to move and was unsure about what the future of my job would hold at Virginia Tech. The idea of telepresence was something we'd been working on with the Assistive Technologies Lab, and I thought, well, could we apply those same principles to work?
So he has been using it to come in daily. He's really been able to be sort of a virtual lab manager.
Managing a group from a distance, it's effective, but I have become more reliant on local leaders, where before I was in charge of every project. Now it's much more delegated, which is actually a good thing.
It helped me learn how to do more. Like, I just got better at my job because I was able to do things that he would have done for me and I'm watching, but now I'm being told how to do it. So that was definitely a really big positive for James being on the double. I got to have more hands-on experience.
We've used traditional types of teleconferencing for years, Skype calls or audio conferencing. The differences are, I think, what makes telepresence work. First, the humanity of it. When you've got this robot that you control, it's your face, your voice, it really does personify it. Where if you have a laptop sitting on a table, or even worse, just a conference phone, it's very much so an object, and you can ignore it.
The doubles provide a very kind of lifelike experience. Movement is more natural and more fluid. The audio works well.
There are several benefits the double has over other telepresence robots. One being the price point. Another feature I like is that it uses an iPad as the face of the unit. No matter what iPad you might have and what iPad might come out in the future, you can always use whatever you might have on hand.
I think the doubles have enabled him to continue to stay engaged just as well as when he was here.
Without the double, the transition would have been much more difficult, and I don't think we would have had the same success we've had.
I definitely think he's been just as effective on the double.
For the lab to keep running as smoothly as it has, we absolutely owe it to both James's work ethic and to the affordances of the double.